We have been talking about on this channel what the big problem is with the NBA, and it has nothing to do with the product of the NBA. The NBA season has been exciting this year. The Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder have both been on historic runs. We're seeing two teams right now with a combined loss total of 22 right now in the NBA. If you can't find something to be excited about with basketball this year, it's because you don't like basketball that much. Maybe you like all the other stuff, the garbage debates, the Stephen A. Smith of it all, right? Maybe that's what you love about basketball. But if you like watching basketball, this has been one of the funnest regular seasons to watch and cover in a very long time. And I'm so glad that it's not just me, speaking to Cleveland fans who know because we watch the Cavs every day, saying this. It's somebody else with a national platform stepping up and saying what needs to be said and addressing what needs to be addressed. And look, we're going to get a bunch of segments on ESPN about this for all the wrong reasons, right? We're going to have, is it respectable for Charles Barkley to do this? But we're going to have all of these places. They're going to talk about what Charles is going to say in this clip. I'm going to show you this clip. Watch how they skirt around the main point of what Charles Barkley is saying in the coming days.
Talking about the Lakers save the NBA.
Save the NBA?
Yeah. He's an idiot and a fool, but he know he is. What's his name, Shaq? I saw a fool idiot on TV talking about the Lakers save the NBA.
Save the NBA?
Yeah. He's an idiot and a fool, but he know he is. What's his name, Shaq?
Which one you talking about?
Kendrick Perkins.
Oh.
He said the Lakers, first of all, the Lakers have had a great 2 weeks. He said the Lakers saved the NBA season. That's because them fools on the other network, which we're going to be working for next year, that's all they talk about. Let me tell y'all something.
Tell me something.
And first of all, I want all the smoke. I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard or anything like that.
I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard.
Right.
I like that.
Hey, man.
I'm stealing that one.
The Lakers are doing great. Got a long way to go. But the reason the season's been going great for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Y'all just want to talk about the Warriors and the Lakers. They're both doing great. Don't get me wrong. If I turn...
If you watch it, maybe there's just something to talk about. Maybe, just maybe, right? And we've talked about this before, especially when the Cavs started on their initial 15-0 streak, just how little coverage the Cavs and the Thunder were getting. It was criminal, right? And look, it's gotten a little bit better. But even in a recent video, I talked about how it doesn't seem like we're capable of talking about Cleveland or Oklahoma City as Cleveland or Oklahoma City. Like, you always have to have a conversation about them, and the only way you can justify talking about Cleveland is if you bring in Boston, if you bring in New York, if you bring in the Los Angeles Lakers, and you kind of make the segment not about Cleveland or Oklahoma City and the fantastic stuff that they have been doing, but about everything else. I've talked about how, look, NFL, not a perfect league, but the NFL is much better at this than the NBA. Because in the NFL, we're going to talk about whoever the best team is, whoever the best players are, whoever's having the best season, because that's what the people want to talk about. That's what they push. It don't matter if the best team is in Buffalo. Don't nobody care about that, right? It don't matter if the best team is in Kansas City, Missouri. You would think that the Chiefs are in Los Angeles with all the coverage that they have, right? We've done this with New England Patriots and everything else. The crown goes in the NFL to the team that wins the most. There's no doubt about that. If a team's having the best regular season, if a team looks like they got the best quarterback in football, that team can be anywhere. And that coverage for that team's going to be at a very high level. In the NBA, it's almost like they get mad when the team that is having that success is not one of the 4 teams that ESPN predicted to be successful that year. right? Like all this season, all we've heard people talk about is this real for the Cavs, right? Not just talking about the success that they've had. This is the problem with how the NBA is covered. You condition people that if it's not LeBron, if it's not Steph, if it's not New York, if it's not Boston, if it's not the Lakers, it doesn't matter. And you know what happens when dope stuff happens outside of those organizations, which it very often does? Because as much as the NBA media apparatuses have focused on a few organizations, the NBA itself has invested heavily in making sure that there's relative parity throughout the league, which means that great things can happen for all the teams. Because that's the case, and the media apparatus only focuses on a few teams, when those teams are down, like the big name teams that ESPN loves to talk about, you get the impression that the Lakers saved the season because the team that you like talking about is now having a good go of it. But Perk, who, by the way, Kendrick Perkins, who really has no excuse to be like this because he played in Oklahoma City and he played in Cleveland. So both these fan bases would have loved to hear Perk go crazy and promote both of these teams, but he's not. It's not just Perk, right? This is how ESPN works. This is how they have manufactured consent on this whole thing about you only care about these teams because they incentivize only talking about these teams. They say to themselves, well, when we talk about the Cavs, we get a 0.12 ratings dip, right? So we can't talk about the Cavs anymore. But what they're not understanding is that by not talking about the Cavs, you're not raising their profile, and you're making it so that that team is never going to garner the same level of interest as LeBron James would or as somebody else would. And it's because you're not just willing to take the hit initially, talk about a team in a smaller market, and then get people nationally up to date with that smaller team so they can be excited about it. Every time there's a finals between two great teams, but they're not Boston or they're not Los Angeles or they're not whatever and LeBron and whoever, you always hear people on the timeline talk about, oh, it's a bad finals. We've been brainwashed into thinking that the only way that it matters is if the biggest names in the biggest cities are involved. And that's not what the problem is. The problem is that the media apparatus that promotes the NBA does not promote the teams that are good. They promote the teams that they think are going to do well on the ratings. That's the same reason why movies are garbage, right? Like people wonder why movies are bad. That same philosophy is why everything you see is a sequel, because every movie executive wants to greenlight a movie they know is going to make money. So they don't take risk on anything new. They don't take risk on any new IPs. That's what the NBA has going on. They just want to greenlight LeBron conversations and Jordan conversations and Lakers and Knicks because they know that that's going to make a profit. So they ignore everything else that's interesting about the game, which means that people don't find the other interesting stuff. So if you're just a normal NBA fan, you're like, damn, the league's not that interesting this year. There's interesting stuff there. They're just not telling you about it. Same way that there's tons of interesting new creative movies being made, maybe on a smaller scale than Disney or Fox making them. But they're out there. They're just not being promoted by the same infrastructure that brings you all of the sequels in the superhero movies. That's the trap that the NBA has fallen in. They have become so tied to a few brands to sell their game that they can't sell their league in the way that it needs to, even when the product is really good. That's the adjustment they need to make. Let's go back to Chuck.
Not to be wrong, I got no problem with that. But y'all are idiots because y'all talk about the Lakers and the Warriors all the time. Y'all don't. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won 12 straight games. The Oklahoma City got the MVP, and they are on fire. Y'all are talking about who's in second place. That's the reason I get pissed. Hey, the Lakers are doing great. I don't mind being wrong. The Warriors are doing great. But that's because you fools on other networks, which we're going to become fools next year. We'll be working on that network. But Oklahoma City and the Cavs been balling for 6 months. Y'all talking about teams that had two great weeks.
Time out. I get what you're saying.
Thank you. It's like we gotta beat Boston and come back by 20 to get 2 segments on First Take. We gotta beat the New York Knicks in front of Stephen A. Smith by 8 Tristan Thompson minutes in order for anybody to pay attention to Cavaliers, right? We gotta do all this incredible shit in order for people to even understand that the Cleveland Cavaliers are not just a team that still plays basketball, but a team that has a borderline historic record. That's what we have to do to make anybody care about the amazing stuff that the Cavs have been doing this season. And even then, it's temporary. It's like a segment or two. And then it dissipates from the popular consciousness of the NBA. But like all Luka Doncic and the Lakers have to do is like 2 good weeks. 2 good weeks, and now they're being thrust into these conversations, right? You notice in these segments, right? I want you to just go back, watch a segment. Watch when they bring up the Lakers. How many times is that segment revolving around, can they beat Boston? It's very rarely it happens, right? Because the Lakers are capable of being talked about on ESPN without being compared to the Boston Celtics. Now the Cavs, who are a much better team than the Lakers this year, that's objectively true. The Cavs have smoked LA both times they played them, and they would likely smoke LA if they played them again because LA has no point guards and no bigs. So they're a terrible matchup for Cleveland. So LA has 2 good weeks. They get talked about they get to have the conversation be about their stars and about their season and how magical it is. The Cavs don't get none of that. Every time I hear the Cavs get brought up, can they beat Boston, is the main subject line of that segment. As if there's nothing else to talk about with the Cleveland Cavaliers other than can they beat Boston. As if Ty Jerome is not doing things that are worthy of being hyped up and talked about. As if Evan Mobley is not in the middle of a Defensive Player of the Year campaign. As if Kenny Atkinson is not about to complete one of the most amazing Coach of the Year victories where he is going to win Coach of the Year and the dude he replaces probably going to finish in second place. All of these things are fascinating to talk about with the Cleveland Cavaliers. All of these things ESPN has the opportunity to talk about, but they don't talk about it because all they want to talk about is Boston. All they want to talk about is LeBron. All they want to talk about is the same stuff they've been talking about since 2016. It's been 10 years of the same topics. I can't tell you. I've never been somebody who liked First Take. I think I used to watch it when I was a kid. Like, it was cold pizza. My dad used to have it on before he would take us to school sometimes. But other than that, I ain't watched First Take in a minute. I don't know. Y'all tell me if I'm missing segments on First Take. But every time I see a clip about the Cavs on First Take or Oklahoma City, we're usually bunched up in the same clip, and it's usually, can they beat Boston? Who's the biggest threat to Boston? Oh, I don't know if they can beat this. They don't have the experience. It's usually that. We can't just talk about the Cavs. We can't just talk. I got to watch so many Thunder games just to understand who the Thunder are because nobody nationally would be willing to tell me. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Both these teams got 50 wins in early March, and we out here talking about anything else. And then because Luka does provide some legitimate excitement and the Lakers start playing really good basketball, we got Perk coming on here talking about they saved the season. This is a historic season, dog. When do we see 2 teams win as much as the Cavs have. 3 teams. You can throw Boston in there. Hell, you can throw New York in there. We got 3 teams that can win 60 games this year. 4 teams. Well, 3 teams. The New York ain't winning 60. But 3 teams that can win 60 games this year, man. 2 that are definitely going to do it. And we can't find nothing to talk about with them. Why? Because we're scared? Because they're not going to do great initially on the ratings if we talk about them? Again, if you are tired of all the movies you see and you wonder why it is you can only get sequels made in Hollywood today, that's the same thing that's going on with ESPN and their sports talk, right? This is what corporations do. They boil everything down to an algorithm and they only give you something they think they know you're going to like. And to them, everything that they think that they know that we're going to like is like, oh, let's talk about Boston. Let's talk about Brian. We don't ever try to break the mold or do anything creative or talk about anything different because all we want to do is go back to those old profitable fundamentals. And that is the kind of shit that tanks a league over time when you stop caring about getting new narratives out there. New stories out there, new fan favorites out there, new teams to talk about. Hell, the NBA wasn't always bad at this. They used to find a way to get me to think of San Antonio as the villain when I was a kid, right? Like, they haven't always been bad like that, and they want to talk about the NFL being more successful than them. Part of the reason that is because say what you want about the NFL. They got a lot wrong with it. The media environment for the NFL is certainly not perfect, but we don't talk about the Cowboys so much in the NFL that you forget that like Patrick Mahomes is doing something historic. We don't ignore, stories because the Cowboys like they do for the Lakers and LeBron in the NBA.
You went at the whole network.
They talk about the same
whole
stuff.
industry.
Whole industry.
They talk about the same stuff every single day.
I would have to, but there's
Is there some credit? Is there some credit to be handed out here?
Yes. But don't say basketball's only watching now. First of all, between that and this lame-ass LeBron-Michael Jordan debate, which is lame. I've said for years, the only people talk about LeBron and Michael is people on television who got no talent to talk about anything else. I've been saying that for years. I ain't hanging on to the 90s. I've always said LeBron's great, Michael's great. But y'all talk about it all the time and then got LeBron out there posing, talking about he all mad about being the face of the league. But it makes me mad. The Oklahoma City and the Cleveland Cavaliers are the 2 best stories in the NBA this year. Congratulations to the Lakers and the Warriors. They've had 2 good weeks. The Cavs and OKC have had 6 great months.
Okay. Tell us how you really feel.
All right.
Yeah, Shaq. Tell us how you feel.
He spent. Like, think about how little people would talk about the DeAndre Hunter trade when it happened and after it happened. Go look at like your favorite NBA channel and see if they talked about the DeAndre Hunter trade, right? Like, this is a problem. DeAndre Hunter, that trade looks like it might be the most impactful trade in the NBA this year. Depending on what the Lakers do with Luka this season. But it looks like that trade, again, the 1 seed in the NBA, making a trade for a serious player, that didn't get coverage. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. The only thing I could find is like 1-2 minute blurbs on ESPN where people are mentioning it, but you don't get segments about it. Now, if the Lakers traded for DeAndre Hunter, oh yeah, we getting 45 million segments about it. If the Knicks traded for DeAndre Hunter, we're getting 45 million segments about it. But the team with the best record in the NBA trades for DeAndre Hunter, and you don't hear anything about this. Now look, if you're not a Cavs fan, you're going to look at the background, you're going to look at my logos, you're going to be like, oh, he's just bitter. I have nothing to be bitter about this season. The Cavs have won more games than I thought they were going to win all season already. I promise you, there's nothing to be bitter about, right? If people want to talk about the Cavs, if people don't want to talk about the Cavs, that's got nothing to do with me. I'm going to watch them. I got League Pass. I enjoy it, whether it's national TV or on League Pass with our local commentators. I think they do a great job. I ain't tripping, right? But if you want to have a conversation about what the problem is with the NBA and people want to make it about the style of play or three-point shooting and make it about the players, nah. It ain't about the players. It ain't about the quality of play on the court. The quality of play on the court is fine. I watch these games every day. I had a great-ass time watching Golden State versus the New York Knicks on TNT. The games are fine. You've had some great games on national TV this year. The Cavs came back from 20 on Boston like 3 times on national TV. Hell, the Cavs in Oklahoma City had that great game on national TV. It ain't the quality of the basketball that people find a hard time sticking with the NBA. It is the presentation of the league by its media partners in the way that they talk about basketball and how that's influenced a generation of people to not care about what's actually happening in the regular season. People have been conditioned to think that the regular season doesn't matter. I'm watching the regular season. I'm having a good ass time. Regular season's still good. Still some damn good basketball. Fun stuff happens in the regular season all the time. James Harden had 50 the other night. But everywhere you go, from people I respect to people I don't respect, who have done this for a while, you just hear people, oh, the regular season's this and it's not great and this and that. And I'm like, I don't even feel like y'all are trying to enjoy the regular season. You know? And when that attitude is what gets thrown out there to the larger audience, then you're going to have an audience that gets apathetic about the regular season. And then you're going to sit here and wonder why these games aren't doing good. It's because you spent so much time telling people they shouldn't care about the regular season. Oh, the Cavs are winning a bunch of games. Let's do a bunch of segments about how they're actually just the Atlanta Hawks from 2015. Even though nothing about them feels like the Atlanta Hawks in 2015, because we want to get back to people stop bugging us about talking about the Cavs. We want to get back to talking about Bron, because that's what the money tells us we need to be talking about is LeBron James. When you're scared to put teams that deserve to be in the spotlight in sports because you have more established brands to talk about, it is a short-term decision that will do well for you. You get the ratings boost early, right, for talking about the Lakers. But in the long run, you're going to run into a situation where, hey, look, you should be able to make buku bucks off of what's happening with Oklahoma City and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But you can't capitalize on it. Why? Because you have conditioned people to act like this shit ain't cool. That's your own fault. Now, I'm going to go back to continuing the regular season after we watch the end of this clip. But, yeah, man, that's what the NBA has done.
Right. Is this one of your favorite rants of all time?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I needed it on my birthday. You all right now, Chuck?
I'm good now.
Happy birthday, big fella. Happy birthday, Kenneth.
Thank you. My first one, my best one is
average 5 points.
He might just have actual beef with Kendrick Perkins, but that's my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Peace.